Hello, everyone, and welcome to Four Lads Live Friday night show with myself, Stevie Clifford, and Kenny Stewart. You asked for live shows, so we're here again doing a little live show. Normally our weekend pod, but we've decided to go live. Kenny, how are you? You good?
Not bad, mate. I was working today, so had a few beers last night. Struggled a bit throughout the day, but I'm fine.
Oh, I am absolutely knackered. I was in Mobile yesterday, so I'm not long back. Andrew was supposed to be hosting this, but he was at the pub all day and has cried off. So it's Kenny and I left to go through last night. Where do we start? For you, those of you who want to watch Matchday Vlog is up. I have tried a few different things. Sort of showed you a wee bit about what I was doing roundabout in Bobbio, went up at a funicular railway, went to see there was a big huge colourful dog that I seen, went to the Guggenheim, and kind of walked about, did 25,000 steps. Stevie wasn't built to do 25,000 steps, as everybody knows. So that was eventful. Let's get into last night. Team news, Kenny, pretty much what we thought it would be. Connor Barron didn't start. Yanis Hadji did come in. Ridvan at right back, big calls. But initially, I thought that the formation was good. And I thought that although there was pressure from Athletic, I didn't feel that the setup in that was wrong. I thought that he'd selected the right team.
Yeah, on the face of it, the only concern I had was Yilmaz at right back. I'm not convinced with him there, and I thought with the quality of opponent he was up against, I was concerned about how he would do. And I think it was the quality of that opponent that ended up causing him to go off, to be honest. I think he's just overstretched on that hamstring, hasn't he? But that's what happens when you're playing a player of that quality and that pace. But the team itself, I thought, was pretty much as expected. And the first 10, 15 minutes, Stevie, I thought we started really decently. I wouldn't say we were great or anything like that. But when we did get the ball, I thought we were trying to move with a purpose and try to get forward. And Diamandi caught the eye right away. I thought he was doing really well. And again, as I say, no real surprises. But at the same time, my concern at this minute in time is that five at the back, every time we play, he's having to change it. So that was kind of on my mind at the time.
Yeah, listen, can't shy away from it. But I'll start, and bear in mind, folks, I haven't seen this again, so I'm going by memory. I'm pretty sure, Kenny, they should have had a couple of cautions in the first 5-10 minutes. They don't. Nico Williams dives, and instead of doing anything about it, he has a quick wiggle of his finger at him. And then the first real talking point, Rangers mountain attack. Cyril Dessers has got an attempt at a through ball. Is he going to get it? We're still not sure. But he absolutely is ripped back. And we've seen what happened to his shirt, Kenny. There's no denying this. You can't pull somebody's jersey, and you certainly can't rip it near in half.
Mate, I was dumbfounded, and you were at the game, as you say. But if you remember, it must have taken about a minute and a half for the ball to go out of play. So you're there as I'm sitting in the house watching it. I'm waiting for the referee to start doing this and get the signal to go to the monitor, and nothing. And I've actually watched this back a few times now, and the referee has got the perfect view of it, Stevie. He is no more than 8-9 yards away, looking clean at it, sees it happen. The linesman or the assistant on that side is right in line with it. He sees it. And then you've got a VAR referee and his assistant, and a fourth official looking at a monitor, and all in all, there's 6 or 7, officials, and none of them see this. Or if they do see it, they decide it's not a penalty. Now, you're a referee, mate. You were a referee, and you'll know the rules far better than I do. But I had a look at that rule today, and it's as clear as day. There is no debate about this. You pull a shirt in the penalty box with an intent, which there is, it's a penalty kick. And I'll say something about this right very quickly, Stevie, because I don't want to go down certain routes. You know that, but the Italians and the Spanish have always got a little bit of favouritism off of UEFA. The fact that the final is where it is, I would look at the 2 games against Bilbao, and I would genuinely say, Stevie, that there's been 5 major decisions to make. There's been 3 penalty decisions, a red card, 4 penalty decisions, actually, I beg your pardon, because there was another incident that we'll come to. But the simple fact is that every single one of these incidents have went one team's way. And I find that almost impossible when you look at it for that to be the case. When you actually look, even the Souttar penalty, which I know we'll come to, is a soft penalty. And I've seen them not given. And I'm not saying it isn't a penalty. But if you look at certain incidences where fouls are given for a guy deliberately stepping over a player, we've had this happen to us against Dortmund. We've had it happen to us against Celtic. And as I say, I actually, when I seen it, I thought, right, fair enough, it's a penalty because the boy's clever, he's cute, and he gets in the way. But that's my concern about this, Stevie. It's hard enough playing a team that's a top 4 side in Spain. They're a quality side. They're a decent side. There's no getting away from that. But when you're playing against officials in both matches as well, where you're just not going to get anything, it was clear as day. So you're talking about booking, Nico Williams. That's a clear dive, and it's incredibly frustrating. There was one of them chopped Mo Diamande down, like he chopped him in 2, no booking. Raskin got one, no booking. So, yeah, we could talk about this, and we will talk about it, but it's very frustrating because, as I say, Stevie, they're a good side. It's hard enough playing a team like that without this going on as well.
Yeah, sadly. Just before we go any further, thank you to Paul Stark, who became a YouTube member tonight. All the people that are YouTube members are going along the bottom of our screen in the descriptions of all our shows. You can become a YouTube member to support the channel for as little as 99p a month. You asked if we could do it. You guys out there said this is what you wanted to do. You wanted live shows. You wanted to help us. So we've done that. And I really appreciate a lot of people saying onwards with the takeover, etc., etc. Hopefully there's takeover news. We'll speak about the takeover at the end, as we always do, and we'll give you what we have on that. However, on last night, after the penalty decision, put that to the side at the moment. For what it's worth, it was a clear penalty kick. You cannot pull somebody's jersey like that. Does Cyril help the way he goes down? I don't think Cyril helps. I don't think we can judge it on that, because it doesn't matter whether Cyril helps it or not, because he's clearly pulled. So yeah, it's a penalty kick. We don't get it, and then becomes a big moment, Kenny, and this is what I have a real big issue with. Okay, Redvan gets injured. The most obvious thing to do is put Nsiala on at centre back and shift Tab over. There's no Sterling. We're already at bare bones. Proper is suspended. This is where it all goes horribly wrong for me. On comes Connor Barron. So you're looking at this selection, and I'm away up in the gods in Bilbao. We were actually just right in front of the commentary area, right up in the gods. And I was looking at this formation, couldn't figure it out. The players didn't know what they were doing, didn't know where they were supposed to be. So Jeffy, for the first few minutes, continued at left back. There was a huge gap. Then he realised he was to be left centre back. Diamande was in at left back. Barry got this one wrong.
Big time. Yeah, genuinely big time. I don't know if you would have seen it, but I think I was pouring myself a beer at the time when this was all going on. There was a break, so I thought, right, I'll pour myself a beer. And as I come back in, NCL, I was standing stripped. And I went and finished pouring the beer, and I came back out, and Conor Barron was on, and I was like, well, what happened there? But the issue I have with it, Stevie, is that within about a minute of that happening, Conor Barron went over immediately when he came on, and he said something to James Tavernier. But Tav and somebody else, can't remember who it was offhand, were actually screeching over at the dugout, what is going on? What is it we have to do? Now, that's not a good look. Right, this is a European quarter-final, and you should be, and I mean this in no disrespect to Barry Ferguson, right, but you should be prepared for every scenario, and we clearly were not. And as I said, I've got a wee phrase that I use sometimes. The arse didn't know what the elbow was doing. They were all over the place, and to be quite blunt about it, it's partly that lack of shape that we had that left us going in at half-time a goal down, because Souttar and Balogun are nowhere near each other. If you actually see where the penalty happens, they're miles away, and one's deeper than the other, and they're confused. And all you had to do was just swap one along and put NCL on and just swap everybody along one and keep Yefty where he was. It would have been that simple, and everybody would have known then exactly what they had to do. And yeah, I'm not going to sit there and stick the boot in for the sake of it with any Rangers player or manager, mate. But he got that spectacularly wrong, and confused the players, and kind of almost spooked the players, and you could tell it. You could tell they were spooked. They instantly lost all composure. They looked frozen. And we all respect Conor Barron. He came on and clearly didn't have a clue what he was being asked to do. So you would have seen it better in the stadium, obviously, the lack of shape, you know. But from where I was sitting watching it on this telly, that it was just a shambles, actually, that second part of that first half, Stevie. It really was.
One of the comments here by headkeeper Barry showed why he will not be manager next season. I think that's quite harsh. However, sitting in the stadium last night and seeing what was unfolding in front of me, I'd be lying if I didn't say to myself, this is an inexperienced manager at this level. This is somebody who's made a huge mistake. Just to give you a wee bit of stat background, I read this earlier on Joshua's article in Rangers Review, that in the first 20 minutes until that injury, Athletic Club had nearly 20 passes in the final third. In the final remaining till half-time, that trebled, and they had 54 passes in the remaining third. We didn't know what we were doing. And I'll say it again, Diamande thought at first he was laid left. Then he shuffled in. Jeffy didn't know what he was doing, and he wasn't particularly playing well. To then move him into left centre back was a huge mistake. The midfield didn't look right, and it was the wrong decision. He then corrects it at half time, and you think fine, and within a minute, John Souttar and Leon Balogun collide, and then we're straight back into it. And part of this comes from the fact that Barry's dealing with a squad that's so lopsided, and it's criminally, like, why we have no wingers is criminal for me. Excuse me, folks. And then we're having to shuffle and put Diamande out. But the thing I said in my vlog last night, and I still believe this to be true, our best ball carrier in midfield is Mohamed Diamande. The one that's capable of turning half turn and everything like that is Mohamed Diamande. To shuffle him out to left-hand side, I just don't see how that's true in the slightest. Why would you do that? That's my biggest issue. But Kenny, just for half-time, when it looks like we've got through that pressure, because there was a few scrambles, there was a few moments. John Souttar has a John Souttar moment. I'll speak about John Souttar in a minute, but there's no debate about this one. It is a penalty kick, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Very quickly about Mo Diamandi, putting him out there just stopped us holding the ball at all. Dessler's got his yellow card. He couldn't play. He's not the most physical of players anyway, and it kind of totally restricted him because he got the yellow card for complaining about. Well, I believe he got a yellow card for putting his shirt on the pitch, crazily. But the thing about
right, I don't know if you've seen this on camera. When Dessers goes off, he rips his shirt off and throws it, and it just misses the fourth official. That's more likely why he got cautioned. I don't know what the official reason was given. And then he changed his top and came back on when he wasn't signalled to come back on. So I think he was just being a bit huffy with regard to what was going on. It's not right. Like, he's obviously feeling he got fouled, but I think that's the reason. But I do agree with you. Once he got cautioned, he shouldn't. You're having to take him out of that because he can't tackle. He can't, and he's quite a cumbersome sort of striker anyway in the challenge. So yeah, I would have taken him out of there in the first place.
That's my point about the last 20 minutes there, that there was taking Diamandi away from there, just utterly restricted us from getting the ball forward at all. It was just coming back at us every 2 or 3 seconds. It was just getting pumped up and back in, and we couldn't get out. And when it comes to the penalty, I'll complain, actually, I can't remember who it was, but somebody took a really quick free kick, and it just shows the naivety that we have, this squad has at this level, that you want to kill that game stone dead at that minute in time. Just getting at half-time 0-0, and it's almost quite literally, it's a 45-minute who scores first type of tie all of a sudden. And you can actually go and change your shape. But I'm sure Barry would have wanted to, keep it tight and probably 0-0 to about 70 minutes, and then just go and have a goal. Open up a little bit more, because everything to play for. If you score first in a game like that, in an atmosphere like that, all of a sudden, you know what Ibrox like when you go a goal down in a game. It gets very nervy, and the quick free kick just so quickly gave the ball away. And sure enough, as I say, the back four, we've watched it all season, they're all over the place, and Souttar gets caught wrong side. The boy's very cute, and it is a penalty kick, as I say, but the boy's really cute. He just puts his leg in front of him, and Souttar, I'm actually not sure he even knows he's there at all, because Souttar's just concentrating on the ball and doesn't see the guy coming because he's totally blindsided, and that puts us up against it, as you know, mate. That's horrible time to lose a goal in a tie like that.
I want to talk about John Souttar a wee bit, but I'm going to do it at the end because I do have a point to make on John Souttar, and I'm really interested to think about what people think. Balogun early injury, Rangers then forced to go 4-4-2, and we have that big moment. Nico Raskin hits the post. It's a kind of free kick. It bounces about a bit, and then it's popped back in again. Goes to the back post. I think it is Souttar that plays it across. Cyril goes for an overhead kick, and then it falls to Raskin. In the middle of all that, there's a handball replica of what happened to Sterling the week before. Raskin kind of fumbles it, it hits the post, and then it's turned wide. Once again, Rangers don't get a decision, Kenny, that almost an identical scenario last week became a penalty against us. I find that particularly hard to take again when you look at the probability of balance over the two legs against Athletic, that we've not managed to get two really big decisions on the night. Barry said it was 2 Stonewall penalties. I don't like to go down the route of using them as an excuse, and I'll say right now, Athletic Club are a better side than Rangers over 2 legs, and we'll talk about this in a minute a wee bit more, but it's 2 penalty kicks.
Well, look, first of all, Raskin's really unlucky because he actually hits it reasonably well, and the keeper just comes out, and it literally hits his side, and cannons onto the post. If it is literally an inch to the side of the keeper, it's gone in, and it changes the game. The handball. Here's my issue with this, right? You talked about Dujon Sterling, the decision last week. Last week, the Dujon Sterling decision, he is facing the wrong way from where the ball's coming over his head. He's trying to make a challenge. He's almost not. He's not in contact with he's a direct opponent, but he's almost in contact. He's up in the air. It's a natural, position to be in, and it skips his hand. So it's hand to ball, with the boys facing that way, having no idea where the ball's actually coming from, if you like. Whereas this yesterday is also, I would say, would be incredibly harsh to give the penalty, because he spins round, but as he spins round, it's hand to ball, Stevie. He actually hits the ball into the turf, and you're like, well, somebody's got to explain this to me, that you can give the Sterling one and not give that one, because they're clearly using a different way of looking at it. That's all I can say. I actually found it, again, staggering. You're sitting waiting, and the VAR did go to VAR, and the VAR team looked at it for literally 10 seconds, right, quick corner kick. It was just looked at and dismissed. And I'm looking at that and giving it. It took them 4 minutes to decide if Sterling was a penalty. I don't understand it. And it's frustrating.
Harry says different ref and VAR team can't expect them to make the same decision. Absolutely agree with that, but there should be a consistent level across all officiating. There is a level last week, and then there's a level this week, and they shouldn't be so different. I think Blue Wales makes that point that decisions should be consistent. Kenny, that was really it for Rangers, I think, in terms of doing anything. And then the coloured second goal, I thought at that point we were absolutely dead on our feet. Igamanja, your best point, why he's out right and left and things is a big struggle for me, but it's needs must because we're so short. But the second goal is a killer, and I hate to say it, I've seen this goal so many times. In fact, I think it was a flashback to Hampden against Celtic. I think it was Jota who did the exact same thing to James Tavernier. Tav says it himself, I think. And yeah, I find that really difficult.
Mate, we've watched it for 9 years, and I don't know really want to stick about it any more than I have done over the years, but you just cannot switch off at this level. And what is really frustrating about it, mate, is he has a look, then he has another look, and then when the cross comes in, he doesn't bother looking. And the boy is about 5 yards behind him and ends up 2 yards in front of him. It's appalling defending. It is, and there's just no escaping it. There's no sugarcoating that. It's an appalling piece of defending. He just utterly switches off against a world-class player, and it's disappointing. And you mentioned Igaman there. I would have had Igaman through the middle long before that, because you would have maybe got a good view of that as well. The amount of times that Raskin and Diamandi were getting really frustrated with Cyril Dessers, where they were pinging balls to his feet, and he was standing behind the centre half. He couldn't get in front of the centre half. Now, that might be a physicality thing. It's hard to tell when you're watching the TV, but he was getting nowhere near him. And you could see the two of them, like, you have to get forward. You have to get in front of this guy. And he just couldn't do it. And that's where for me, I would have had Igaman through there, and I'd have brought Danilo on earlier than he did. And as I say, you're clutching at straws a little bit to a certain degree, and it's all hindsight and stuff like that, I suppose. But at the same time, it was quite clear that Cyril Dessers was having a real struggle. For me, I just find the whole I've just found the whole two games, really frustrating, because I don't think we've performed badly. I just don't think we've performed particularly well. And I found that, as I say, decisions and And as I say, you know, Haggis and Bluebells, they were both saying that, you know, you want consistency. What I would suggest to you is that, you know, and I know it might not be part of the rule, but hand to ball should be different from ball to hand. If you're, you know, that's a more deliberate act to actually hit the ball. And that's what frustrates me about all of it, mate, is that, you know, over the two games, whether it's two different set of officials or not, we've got nothing out of that. And as I said earlier on, it's hard enough, you know, to get something out of a game like that against a quality outfit without players switching off, players not getting in front of their marker, and officials making it even more difficult for you. So if I sound not doom and gloom, it's because I just feel really frustrated about it, because I think if we had played to our potential and we weren't allowed to do that either, it's because of the red card. And I would also say that very quickly about the Robin Proper red card. Yeah, it's a red card probably, but I've watched, I don't know, 150, couple of hundred games this season, and I've seen that challenge plenty, and they haven't sent people off for it. So, you know, it's just very frustrating, Stephen. That's what I would say.
I'm going to sort up the way I feel. People can feel free to get in the comments. Lots of comments about Takeover. We will get to Takeover stuff in a bit. On last night, over the two legs, the most frustrating thing for me last night was the amount of times we got the ball, the amount of times we would do something good and win a turnover with the ball, Nico Raskin, Diamande, and then straight away give it away immediately. Our distribution and use of the ball last night was awful. There was no trust. There was numerous times where you could have played a player in. He down the side, Dessers made runs down the side, Cherny made runs down the side, Red Van Diamande, I can think of two incidents where they just wouldn't give them the ball, which was really frustrating. And that's the biggest thing for me. I asked Barry in a press conference about how you get the team not to play safely. Spoke to Balogun about it as well for the home game. And it was having confidence and having trust in each other. There was no trust there. And that really bothered me. Nico Raskin's distribution of the ball, you said about him getting annoyed with Dessers as he was. There was times where he wasn't coming and they were shouting at each other. It needs to be better. It needs to be better. And that's the issue. We've had that in midfield all season. So for me, I think over the two legs, I think Athletic Club, the players they've got, Williams, big boy up front, I think something like Sinisa, number 21. I think they were really good players. I think they're a better squad on paper than us. But frustratingly for Rangers, the biggest issue I have is over the two legs, we never gave it anywhere near enough. I think we had one shot on target over both legs, which was Cherny's effort last night. That's the biggest issue for me. And I think that, unfortunately for us, we let ourselves down. If we had went out against Fenerbahce, you could have said that we gave it our absolute best and we had a big moment in the away leg and they were just too strong. To get beaten like that over two legs on our playing ability and giving the ball away and being so poor on the ball is my biggest disappointment. You can say about penalties and things, and we didn't get the breaks. We absolutely didn't. But I like to look at ourselves, and I think the players last night didn't perform anywhere near what they should have. I said that on the vlog, and I'll remain with that. But that said, Europe is over and done with. The dream of going as far as we can took us to a quarter-final. And I think we can be happy with that, especially considering our squad. I don't think this squad's good enough. I've said it consistently. It needs a massive turnaround. Even if we had got through last night, weirdly enough, I still would have said the exact same thing. Nothing's changed for me today. For the end of the season, we've got 5 games left. They are dead rubbers. They are glorified friendly games. I'd like to see Inciala play. I'd like to see Cortez, as much as he hasn't shown us anything. I'd like to see Gaman through the middle. I'd like to see game time for Danny. I'd like to figure out bits and pieces if there's anybody in the periphery of things on the edges that might be able to help us into next season. I don't think in the last 5 games you gain a lot from playing, Leon Balogun obviously got injured and things last night, so give Nsiala a shot. We need to figure out where we are. This is a massive job in the summer. Maybe there's a few players there, Kenny. It doesn't matter if we win the final 5 games. Nothing is going to change or get better or anything like that. I'd like to see us, could Bailey Rice get some game time? Could, young Finlay Curtis get some more game time? These are the things that I'm kind of looking to see and see where we are when we finish off. There's not massive changes, but could 4 or 5 of them come in and could we see what they're like? At some point, we're going to have to figure out Oscar Cortez. That's why I would play him and give him some game time. Danny needs to play up top. These are things. You're not going to figure anything more out from Cyril Dessers in the last 5 games. Eagleman, maybe play him through there. It's not a lot to play for, but we do need to try and figure some things out.
Yeah. What I would say is Barry Ferguson's probably fallen into the same trap that Michael Beale and Philip Clement have, did, and that is to play Cyril Dessers as his first choice number 9, and he'll let you down. And I'm not sitting saying that he necessarily let us down last night. I'm just saying in general, you have to start thinking about the future, and this is the perfect time to do that. And that's why I would agree with you. I want to see Eagleman on the pitch. I want to see him getting all the games in as many minutes as possible. I want to see Danilo. I want to see what he can do. I don't think it's unfair to suggest that Danilo should be kicking his door in and saying, I want to play, and I want to play now. Young Finlay Curtis has come in and any time I've seen he looks a right good player. I want to see him. Nsiala, I thought was excellent last night. Genuinely excellent. And in the main, apart from that wee period just where he had come in and played about a dozen games or so, just at that point at the end of that where we had to take him out after, I think it was the Submarine game, if I remember right. This kid's just started his professional career, so I want to see him, because apart from those 2 games where perhaps he was playing a couple of days, a couple of times a week, every week, and maybe that's been a wee bit too much for him, he's looked excellent. Boy's got masses of potential. He's got the physique for it. He can pass a ball. I thought he was really good last night. The one real positive I took out of last night was NCL. I thought it was superb. But there's loads of situations that we need to look at now, Stevie, because I don't think necessarily Barry Ferguson is going to want to do this because he's got a job to do. But we as fans need to start looking to the future. The club itself needs to start looking towards next season. And if that means looking at the guys that are on the periphery of things and saying, can they do a job for us next season? Because I think there'll be a fair exodus of players. There's a number of them out of contract anyway, but there'll be a serious amount of players that I think if a new manager does come in, maybe we'll look at and say, no, I don't fancy this at all. And I don't know. I just feel that Barry's getting the perfect opportunity to leave a wee marker down if he doesn't get the job of turning and saying, at least I've instilled a bit of what Rangers is all about into this squad, and the younger boys that are perhaps going to be here next season can take that on board while getting game time. And I just hope he's brave with it and kind of bins his tried and trusted, because it's began to frustrate me a little bit. And I'm going to hark on about Cyril Dessers. And it's not a complaint about Cyril Dessers. I think he's a fine player to have as your second or third choice striker. But we have a potential. What we have is a player with huge potential to go really far in the game, and we're either not playing him or popping him out left, and it mystifies me when you've got a guy like that. And even as I say, last night he came on and did really, really well, and he's only 21, so 21, 22 maybe now. So you've got to give these kids a chance, mate. That's what I would say. You have to from here on in, because as you say, we've got nothing to play for.
I had to slightly giggle at to find this comment here from Andrew Phillips. We should only be playing players who will be with us next season. So that's basically just Eagleman and the rest is a total toss-up, isn't it? A lot of comments. Bluebell says, genuinely think we have 7 or 8 we should keep. 3 or 4 of them are kids. That's where I am.
Me too.
This needs a massive overhaul. It needs. Somebody said a couple of comments before that we need. I'm going to bring it up actually, James McGill. We need a keeper, a right back, a centre half, probably 2 wingers, and at least 1 striker. No, we don't, James. We need much more than that. We need 1, 2, and more or less every single position. And I think that's the magnitude of the job that we need to do in this summer shouldn't be lost on anyone. It's not like anyone can come in and just throw 50 million at it. It's not how it works. So, we're going to have to be creative. We're going to have to be inventive in what we do to get players in, and we're going to have to sell players as well, which becomes really difficult as well, because how many do you have that are worth value? I did promise, there's a few comments earlier on, quite a few, about takeover stuff. Bring up a comment before William Smith. Hearing rumours about current board putting brakes on takeover. Is this true at all? Put my mind at ease, please. Why would that be true in any way? Genuinely. This is a boardroom who want to sell. They've made that clear. And why would any of them put a break on that? I'll tell you what we told you last week. What Chris is reporting, Chris Jack, who's very close to this deal. The deal for takeover is with lawyers, which means that the first draft is there. Both sides have agreed a deal, and it's there. Who's selling and things we don't know for definite. There's another question here from Headhunter. Some rumours 49ers are not at 51%. Don't need to be at 51%. That's an absolute moot point. They don't need to be. What they're looking for is a controlling stake. That doesn't need to be 51%. It can be the highest at the moment, which I think would be about 21%. If they manage to buy Dave King, John Bennett, then yeah, I think they're more or less there. There's a few other. I think Barry Scott is it? I think is it also selling. So there's a few, but I don't honestly. I'm not up nor down regarding this takeover. I really am, in terms of worrying about it. It's with lawyers. I've seen a few rumours today. Are we going to get an announcement next week before the fan forum? I'd be amazed if this takeover was done this month, certainly. I think they're looking into May. Everything seems to point towards a kind of mid-May. I think a month time from now is where we will be. I don't think there's always going to be rumours. There's always going to be stuff said about a takeover. There's always going to be negativity and a bit of worry, but these things take time and time and time. You talk about, first drafts and lawyers looking into them. That'll go back and forward so many times. I really don't think that's an issue. As for, shareholders not giving up full amounts and that, they might not, but they don't need everybody to sell everything. They need enough to get them up to where they want to be, which is a majority stake. You've already got a boardroom that have said that they've got shareholder fatigue. The chairman went and they had to get a pal in to run it. No disrespect to John Gilligan, but he wasn't on the board or anything because none of them would take the job. So John would tell you that himself. So this isn't a thing where I think we need to overly concern ourselves about rumours and stuff like that. I also don't think it goes this far if everybody wasn't settled. What we can't do is give you definites 100% because everybody that's close to the deal has signed non-disclosures. So nobody will talk about it. Nobody is allowed to talk about it. And now we just need to wait. As I said, my own gut feeling, it'll be into May before we hear anything about a takeover. I'd be amazed if there was anything sooner. I would be wonderful if there was. I would really like it. But Kenny, this is going to come up every week. It is the hot topic. I think it's the only thing that is kind of keeping everybody going in terms of, you know, if there wasn't a takeover, we're staring down the barrel at another, you know, barren season. And I think that the takeover is just about keeping people sane as such. Without it, I think we'd be front door territory a long time ago.
Look, mate, it's Easter. It's Good Friday today, and our season is over. And frankly, if we hadn't got past Fenerbahce, it would have been over in March. So we have to be realistic and say that fans are right to feel perplexed, frustrated, hacked off, whatever way you want to look at it. I said something you were talking about the takeover there, and it was something that two things that I would say. First, it was something that I said to you ages ago, that Dave King said that he wanted this to be his legacy and stuff like that. I said, well, that's all very good and well, but when he said it, I said he's actually thrown a lot of the guys that are there right under a bus, because if anything was to happen where it would fall through, he's telling everybody that they don't want to be there. And gee whiz, honestly, mate, God help them if this was to fall through for next season, because they've now all admitted they don't want to be there. So I have no concerns about that. Where I think people are getting these stories from, mate, is that I have been informed that there's 2 or 3 of your Yahoo bloggers across the city that they're calling it a fake over and all this kind of stuff. And you know how Glasgow works. It slowly but surely starts to filter across the city. That's where the nonsense, that's where the crap's coming from. And it always mystifies me how the guys like this, absolute lunatics like this, pretend that they're in the know. And as you say, there's not, they sign non-disclosure. You're not, there's nobody involved allowed to say a single word about it. Do you know what I mean? They do sign non-disclosures, and I find it absolutely incredible that when it's one of these situations where, you know, fans have been told by Chris, your mate Chris, that it's in the hands of lawyers and the deal has all been agreed, then what more can you ask for at this minute in time? You're just going to have to be patient. And by the way, I'm just going to tell you something right now. Leeds have literally just scored. So if that helps the whole thing, then good. But look, it's... As I said,
I'm still laughing at Yahoo bloggers, to be quite honest, mate.
I'm not a Yahoo blogger, and neither am I, mate. But I'm talking about the Yahoos from across the city. You know, the ones, the Celtic blogging guys like this. Honestly, I see Kenny the Wise again. Yep. No, look, it is one of these things.
That's definitely somebody related to you, isn't it?
It's my mum, honestly. Look, it is one of these things that I can understand the frustrations, because when you get the excitement about something like this, where, let's be really blunt, really brutal about it, Stevie, about 90% of the fans, or the supporters, I'll call them that, have had their fill of this board, mate. It's just been a failure after failure. And I've said this many times, I'll thank them for everything that they've done over the piece, but it is time for them to move on. We do need fresh ideas, fresh eyes, and just some inspiration, because there's been a lack of it. And this season, from the very get-go, from the shambles at the Copeland Road to having to go to Hampden, it's just been, excuse my French, but it's been a shit show from start to finish. So I can understand why people are getting a wee bit tetchy about it, but at the same time, we're just going to have to be patient and don't listen to the Yahoos across the city.
Wow. Yahoos and bad words all in the same sentence from Kenny. Shocking. What are you going to do, folks? Look, a big shout out, a couple of new members tonight, William Smith and Gary Peacock, as well as our
Brilliant.
earlier new member as well. Love that, folks. Honestly, thank you so much. You asked us to go live. You asked us if we could do a membership thing so that people can help. And you guys have, I think there's almost 40 folk have said in recent weeks have signed up for our membership for as little as 99p. And that helps us do interviews. It helps us do things for members. There will be some podcasts coming up. Ex-players got a few of them lined up. These things take time. It's almost like a takeover myself. You know, you text them and say, are you available? And then they say, yeah, and then they cancel. And, you know, I think the ones we've got will be worth it. They'll be divisive. Be interesting. Looking forward to seeing what you're going to think. Very successful footballers for Rangers as well. Divisive ones in bits and places, but really good ones. There's over 2,000 people watching this live, folks. Can only say thanks genuinely for joining us on this Friday night. If you could drop us a follow on or a subscription rather on YouTube, that'd be much appreciated. It helps us grow, and drop us a like. That would be absolutely wonderful, genuinely. So I think we'll call it a night there, Kenny. Well, Bale, the dream's over.
We can't call it a night, Stevie.
What have we forgot to
stick to that agenda, mate?
What have we still to discuss?
John Souttar.
Oh, right, okay. Right. Here's my point on John Souttar, and I've been thinking about this long and hard, and before I say this, John Souttar is somebody that I like, right? And I like him. He's Scottish, he's a big guy, you know. I think that we should renew his contract. He's not a starter for me, Kenny. He's not a starting centre-half. And I'll go a step further to say that he's made 3 or 4 really huge mistakes in the last few weeks. The same kind of thing that Connor Goldson got hunted out of the club for. And I just think, personally, John Souttar, along with a few others, performance-wise hasn't been good enough. And I just had that thought on John Souttar today. I couldn't really shake it, actually, in terms of... So I wanted to put that out there a wee bit. I think that he's got off really lightly from the support in terms of performance and overall mistakes. If you look at the mistakes he has made, Dundee, third goal, came charging out. Hibs completely caught. Penalty last night. I think he was at fault for one against Motherwell positionally as well. I think John Souttar, if he wants to be a starting centre-half for Rangers, needs to be a whole lot more consistent than he is at this moment. That's for time. Because at this moment, in the last month or so, he's pretty error-strewn, and that's not good enough for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I really like John Souttar as a player, but it is highly noticeable that in big games at this minute in time, he's not without a failing, if you like. And it's a poor mistake last night. There's just no getting away from it. He's slightly flat-footed, and he doesn't even know the boy's there. It's a bad mistake to make. And listen, he's one of the better Scottish. He's probably the best Scottish centre half there is. So we are right to, you are right to turn around and suggest that we renew his contract. And I would like to see him stay and get plenty of game time. But I'm with you. I genuinely do think that we need a first choice right centre half, and for next season we need a first choice left centre half as well. We need a new pair in there, and John Souttar can sit there and play 20-25 games a season, no problem, and come on and build that up with substitutions to 35-40 appearances, and that's ample, and he's going to contribute as a tremendous squad player. But as a first choice centre half, I'm not sure at all, because as you say, it's getting to the point where I'm not saying he's unreliable, but he's got that in him. He's got a howler in him, and if you want to perform at the very highest level, you can't have that. Everybody's going to make mistakes, mate, but you can't make them as regularly as John Souttar has done of late. I
suppose just before we go, there's loads of names being suggested for for manager. Of course, Steven Gerrard has went right to the front, favourite, now unbackable. I think almost 1-2. Somebody asked me somebody commented a wee bit above, and it almost gave me a fright when they were talking about what do you think of Russell Martin as hot favourite for the Rangers job. That's just the kind of comment that makes me not want a podcast ever again, to be quite honest with you. I do not want Russell Martin anywhere near this Rangers job. I really don't. He plays the same kind of football that does not work here. Really, really don't fancy him in the slightest. Now, listen, given the way my tips and things work out, he's probably the best choice for it, given what I've said about that, Kenny. But we spoke about it before. Russell Martin, I'm not a fan of. Ex-Brighton manager would be De Zerbi, and he is at Marseille, and he's well out of our league. We're not getting him. Russell Martin, no thanks for me. There's nobody on that list. There really isn't. You know, you could have a fanciful name like Jose Mourinho, who's one of the most sought after managers in the world. I don't think that happens. Could you get somebody a bit left field like Knutson or somebody to leave? I'm not sure if he ever leaves Bodo Glimt. I'm not sure that happens. Steven Gerrard's name will not go away. My biggest issue, folks, genuinely, I don't think there's a standout. Kevin Muscat, you've probably missed the boat on as well, considering I think he just recently signed a new bumper contract. So there's not a standout manager for me. And if we are to choose somebody, I think that's the biggest issue I've got, Kenny.
Yeah. Listen, what I would say here, right, is last night's the prime example of, and this is me again, I'm not going to stick the boot into Barry Ferguson here, but that inexperience showed up big time last night. And Barry's won 4 of his 10 games. He's drawn 4 and lost 2, is that right? Or drawn 2 and lost 4. I beg your pardon.
In fairness, though, 4 of them in Europe.
Yeah, no, I'm not criticising. What I'm saying is that at the point here is, 4 of them have been in Europe, Stevie. But the situation is that inexperience showed last night. And that's where my kind of thinking on it now, I don't want to see Russell Martin anywhere near here. We've discussed this before. It's these philosophy managers that, that do, there is no plan B. It's do plan A and then do plan A better. It's all very tedious, and as you say, it doesn't work here. It would be very much horseshoe stuff like Gio or whatever, but probably without the tactical awareness that Gio had. There's no standout candidate in terms of the list of favourites or anything like that. And the simple fact is that if the takeover does happen, you've got to be realistic and say that nobody knows who they would have in mind. Greta Steinson, that's his name, will be the one that will kind of be dealing with a lot of that. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if it's a name that we haven't even heard of or discussed. When I say haven't heard of, hasn't even been discussed in the equation at all. So we don't know. But out of them, I'm one of those guys. Since the boy there saying about 1 and 9 for Gerrard, yeah. But I like the way we played our football, and he did win a league here. And out of that list, that's the one I would take. But that's not to say I would be convinced about taking Steven Gerrard back either. He would have a lot to prove, and he wouldn't get the kind of patience and time that he got the last time. He just wouldn't, because he knows this league. He's going to have to figure out winning these games in this league immediately, or the pressure's going to crank right up on him. And I'm not convinced that he necessarily wants it at all. And I know the stories and the rumours are there, mate, but if anybody that follows him on Instagram, he's stoating about, thoroughly enjoying life at the minute in a jet set manner. So I'm not sure we rainy Glasgow at Easter is his cup of tea, really, but we'll wait and see.
Just on this, what do you guys think about Gareth Southgate? Gareth Southgate would probably command a wage of about 100 grand a week, so you can forget about that. Not saying if you persuade him to leave Bodo, we spoke about that. I don't think he does leave. There's all those rumours about him getting 20% of sales and all that, isn't there?
And he knocked back Ajax and stuff like that, mate. And if he's knocking back Ajax, he's very unlikely to come to Scotland, is he? And I don't mean that to dismiss us as a club. I'm just saying that if he's knocking back the top Dutch side, I'm not convinced he's going to come to Scotland and ply his trade, you know.
Do you know the good thing is, Kenny, we've got another whole summer of speculation. Because look at it this way, folks, right? Kenny and I were talking about what we would do in the summer and everything else, and I said, Kenny, don't even worry about it, because by the time you think about a manager, a sporting director, potential takeover, and then the amount of signings, sales, everything else that's going to be going on at the football club, we need commercial managers, we need all sorts amongst the club. There's going to be so much to talk about, that's for sure. So you'll see me and Kenny's wee shiny heads all summer, that's for sure, because there'll be a lot going on. That's definitely true. One thing on Steven Gerrard is Steven Gerrard got it 100% what it meant to be a Rangers manager. It might took him time to crack it, which was different. But in terms of what he started with, I think he was 7 Old Firms unbeaten when he left here. Left an unbeaten Rangers season. We were 5 clear, I think, when he stopped and left. So there is a lot to say about Steven Gerrard that's positive as much as it was negative. 1 in 9, there's context everywhere surrounding that. As much as it wasn't good enough, and it wasn't. So Gerrard's on that list is still the one that pulls a wee bit on the heartstrings. So yeah, I think Jimbo just brought that up. I quite like it. See when there's wee people who pull up this sort of stuff. 13 games, won 8 and lost 4. Yeah, absolutely. So,
and you could see the progress, couldn't you? You could see the progress with Gerrard's sides. You could see what he was doing the whole time.
Yeah, but the thing is, the biggest thing for me, Kenny, is he raised standards on and off the pitch. The amount of work he did around that training ground, getting things better than everything else. If he's got a takeover behind him that are willing to say, we'll take you off the field where you need to go around your players and everything else, and on it, we'll back them as much as possible. They cannot give 50 million to whoever takes over. That's impossible. You can't do it. So there's going to have to be wheeling and dealing. You're going to have to try and get the very best deals. You're going to have to pick up the very best kind of players. So yeah, listen, yeah, we'll just need to wait and see. There's plenty of time. We've almost been on an hour, Kenny. There's 2,200 people watching that. We've had some really great new members for the YouTube channel, which we absolutely love. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. That would be a huge help. But just you watching and commenting, we really appreciate it, Kenny. But definitely need to go now. I'm tired. I'm just back from Spain. And yeah, I need to chill a wee bit and then straight back to work tomorrow, mate. So yeah, thank you for joining us on this extended Friday night show, that's for sure.
No, thanks for having me on, mate. And I'm working tomorrow as well, working right through, I'm afraid. But yeah, it was a good show, really enjoyable. Enjoyed the chat with the people that are watching as well. It's superb, really, really good wee show. That enjoyed it.
Not quite back from Tesco, but yeah, we appreciate it. Listen, thank you everybody for joining in. Thank you for over 2,000 watching, which is quite remarkable. Sorry that I'm a bit knackered. I think we're all kind of feeling it a wee bit. That's for sure. Cheers, right, said Fred. I'll take that. Yeah, it's not one of the worst ones, that's for sure. One thing for sure, folks, Kenny and I don't take ourselves very seriously. That's for sure. We're just Rangers fans talking about the club we love. So everybody, listen, have a good weekend. Easter weekend with your families and things like that. We hope you enjoy it. We'll be back next week to talk about more rumours, more Ranger stuff, and yeah. Please like, subscribe, follow. Do your thing. We've really appreciated. Thanks to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Cliveview Joinery, Affle Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioner, and our partners Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Without them, we don't make this show, and without you watching, we're just talking to ourselves, really, which is just a normal day for Kenny and I. Have a good weekend, folks. We appreciate it. Bye for now.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Cliveview Joinery, Affle Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.